Welcome to the first episode of High on AI. I am your host, Trigg Watson, and we are met with Christian Genco, who is a dear friend and someone I have known since my college days. We bonded over our mutual love of magic tricks and have since then been two members of our own mutual admiration club, enjoying watching each other's adventures. And Christian has fallen down many technical rabbit holes over the years that I've known him, but I don't think I've seen him more high, more excited on life than what the past few months have done to the world. And his excitement excites me. I don't understand a lot of what Christian is excited about, but I have questions and I'm going to try and get a little bit, a little bit deeper. So, Christian, what's been going on the past few months, like in
It's been
your world?
it's been crazy. It's kind of difficult to express this. Like, where do I even start? It's like an analogy that I would have drawn a couple months ago is it's as if I was a carpenter and like power tools were just invented, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is I have a table saw and I have electric drills and this stuff used to take me so long to do, and now I can do this. But like specifically in the last call it 5 weeks, it's been since Opus 4.6 came out. It's just on a whole another level. The
Right. What
speed that
is
I'm able to
Opus
do things.
4646?
Opus 4.6 is the most recent model, LLM model, large language model. We can go deep in this rabbit hole of like what these things are, which I'd love to do. It's the most advanced large language model in the world. Debatable. It switches
Okay,
back and
so
forth
like the
between.
latest Chat GPT operating system thing, just to
Yes.
put it in
Yeah.
layman terms, the
Yes.
robot behind the AI chat has gotten,
Yes.
yeah, that
There
most
was a
recent
there was a
model.
recent update from Anthropic, specifically. Their most recent flagship model, is Opus 4.6, and something unlocked for me when they did this. It used to be that I had to spend a lot more of my time babysitting the thing, overseeing it, making sure that it was doing what it was supposed to do, and all of a sudden with this model, it stopped making mistakes. Uh, all of the mistakes that it made, I could kind of directly attribute to, "Oh, I asked it for the wrong thing," or, "Oh, I was going down this rabbit hole and I didn't." And then it felt like the speed limits were taking off of, like, it just exhilarating of, like, the stuff that I'm able to bootstrap with this, and it's so, just like yesterday, I feel like was the first time that I could kinda sit back and take a breath and like, "Okay, things aren't like the rate of acceleration is no longer accelerating. Things have kind of stabilized of like my tooling has remained pretty stable and it's still outrageously fast and things are going crazy. But yeah, I feel like I kind of have a handle on this next wave and I can see the next wave coming after this of like, oh my gosh, it's just a few months from now, it's gonna be like the next level up that I go and yeah, so that's what I've been really excited about. That I feel like
But
this.
just for context, I mean, you've been building software, writing code since you were a teenager,
Right.
creating whatever you want, whatever your heart desired. You've been slaving away at a computer, writing code to bring whatever you want into existence. Whether
Right.
it's a business or to just a scratch of your own itch. But isn't there a sense of like, isn't it a little bit insulting that this computer could swoop in and do your job? I mean, this is something you're
Yeah.
passionate about. You've been having this skill set for years that was scarce, and
Yeah.
a lot of your identity would be around you're the guy that can code something. Is there
Right.
not a loss of identity that's coming with the fact that AI can do this faster, bigger, and better than you can?
For sure. This is a existential crisis that I've grappled with a few times just in the last year. Yeah, like there's a part of me that I think tries to identify with my ability to do specific types of work. And so that's a core identity that I have is like I'm good at writing code. I'm really fast at typing. That doesn't matter anymore. And it's never gonna matter in the future. No one ever needs to write a line of code again. Uh, that's the world that we're living in. And so, yeah, that was a big like, "Whoa, what who am I if not Christian Genko, the guy who can type fast and has memorized all the syntax for all these languages?" And, that was sort of more of a scarcity mindset and, when I'm in a worse state of mind, I feel like I frame things more that way. But then I woke up the next morning and realized, "Oh my gosh, in a sentence of thought, I can get done what would have taken me 2 years ago, I can get done 2 weeks of work, and that's not hyperbolic, like, looking at the lines of code, looking at the speed just this morning, oh my gosh, I was on a walk with my family in the park, and I had this idea for a software application, like a software as a service application that I wanted to make, and so I had the thought, and then I told my AI, my agent swarm, I still don't know quite what to call this thing. I told it, "Here's an outline of the thing that I'm thinking about. Here's kind of the rough strokes of how I want to do it. What do you think about that? And then put my phone away and went back to playing with my kids. And then it buzzed in my phone, and I said, oh, it's back. And oh my gosh, actually, yeah, this is a really good idea. Let me kind of flesh this out, another sentence or two, and then put it back. And with like, I don't know, 8 back and forths like that, I now have a domain name. I have a Rails app deployed with this thing, with the MVP version of it. I haven't even opened this yet, but I'm pretty sure it's just going to work the first time I open it. And like, that's exhilarating. Oh my gosh. Because yeah, so the carpenter analogy from earlier, it's crazier than that, because it's like, it's as if the carpenter also has a bunch of team of robot carpenters that he can go and tell what to do. It's like a Fantasia situation with the wizard, with like, Mickey Mouse doing all his brooms to go clean up the house. Like, it's wild, and it's like, yeah, there is an element of sort of pining for days gone by, but at the same time, like, well, I could always go back to that if I wanted to, but it's way more fun to do things at this higher scale of like, I wasn't actually enjoying writing the code. I enjoyed solving problems and building stuff, and just the scope of the ambition of the projects I can build is so much bigger now. And like a software as a service application like that, if I was charging someone else to do it back when I had a consultancy, that would have been like, I don't know, at least mid 5-figure, lower 6-figure contract, and would have taken like, I don't know, 5 months. And I'm able to do it just kind of with fragments of my attention from my phone while I'm hanging out with my kids. Like, what kind of a world is this? What are we living in? So yeah, I've had mostly just kind of euphoric, manic moments like that of like, what is this going to look like a couple months from now? Like, it's yeah, it's insane, and I'm loving it.
Well, I wanna know what it's gonna look like a couple months from now, but before we head into the future,
Yes.
just sort of present state right now. I
Yes.
know that people watching this, some people might have a strong sense of what AI is and what its capabilities are, and then people's understanding of AI might, for others, be not much more than a really great Google that I go to ChatGPT and I ask it a very specific answer, and it feeds me back information specifically designed based on what I've asked, and that's all they understand.
Yes.
Um, can you give me a definition in like act like I am a fifth grader, let's say third grader.
Yeah.
What is AI? What is this thing that we're all, experiencing right now?
Love it. So my wife and I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. So this is a game that I play all the time of like, how do I how do I express this concept in words that I know that she knows? So what I would say is, artificial intelligence just means there are smart things happening outside of a brain. So that defines a lot of things. Like an abacus is technically AI. It's this intelligence of being able to do math, and it's outside of a brain. It's these beads that go back and forth, and it's able to hold some intelligence in it. It's able to do something that otherwise you would need a human mind to be able to do. And we've had that for a long time. That's computers, that's a word processor, that's a calculator. This new wave of AI, though, AI is kind of the brand name on top of this thing that includes a lot of other things, and the wave of it, the core innovation and kind of the thing that people are dealing with most when they're talking about AI in 2026 are LLMs, or large language models. So what's a large language model? A large language model is a magical box where you put words into it and it spits words out, and that's it. And this is not a new concept. People have been kind of working on things like this for about, I don't know, the last decade or so. Recently, they've gotten impressively, astoundingly good at the magic that's happening inside of this black box when it's doing the thinking. So good, in fact, that it's as if there's a really, really smart person inside the box. Like, if you have one box on the left and another box on the right, and I tell you, one of these has an LLM inside of it, and the other box has a person inside of it, and we're, write out your words in a letter and put it in the box, and write out your other words in a letter in a letter and put it in the box on the right, and then you're going to get two pieces of paper out, and one of them's going to be done by a human, and one of them's going to be done by a computer. Can you tell which is which? This is the Turing test. Alan Turing was one of the godfathers of modern computing. This was sort of his test back, I don't know, 50 years ago of when machines would become intelligent. Currently, you couldn't tell, and if you could tell, it would be because the LLM's answer was too good. It's like a person couldn't possibly know this. This one has to be AI. But fundamentally, that's all that's happening. Like, we're putting words in and we're getting words back out. And I could go into the technical details of like how that's actually happening. That's a fascinating topic. But yeah, to your question of like, what is AI? The current way that term is being used is to label these magic machines that we've been able to build. We tricked sand into thinking, and the the specific technical thing that box is called is a large language model.
So, in a few sentences, with all that in mind, what is
Yeah.
AI? It's a thing outside of your brain that
They can think
think. It can
in a
produce
human-like way.
answers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Which doesn't
So
mean, and this is something I've changed my mind on, that doesn't mean it's conscious. The LLMs kind of ironically made me believe in the soul. It was more secular in like high school and college, and kind of went on a journey from there. But I had this idea that like consciousness arose from intelligence, that it was an emergent property of intelligence in the same sort of way that like flight is an emergent property. If you put all the pieces of a bird together or all the pieces of a plane together, you get flight out of it. I
Hmm.
thought, oh, if you just build an intelligent thing, then consciousness kind of arises out of it. And I no longer think that. I think consciousness is the base layer, and consciousness is aware of the intelligence happening in your brain, but intelligence on its own. So yeah, that's a whole philosophical thing we could talk about. But I don't believe that LLMs are or can become conscious, and I used to think that. But after playing with them for a while and like taking them apart and realizing what's going on, I'm like, no, this is a very big, extremely fast, extremely complicated abacus, and I don't think an abacus can become conscious.
I think on behalf of most of humanity, that's a relief.
Perhaps. I hope I'm right also. I'm often wrong.
Yeah, we'll see. William Gibson has a quote: "The future is here; it's just not evenly distributed yet." And
Yeah.
I feel like that's true based on my awareness of what friends like you are experiencing, leveraging AI to the max, to people like my parents who are conveniently retired and don't have to figure out how to recombobulate their entire professional life to take this into account. And I imagine people watching this probably are on varying places in that spectrum. So I'd be curious to know, just so that people that maybe aren't leveraging AI to the degree that you are, could you walk us through, aside from the technical stuff, what outputs, what what is a day in the life of Christian Janko right now with
Yeah.
the AI systems at your disposal? Like, can you put me into your world for a second so that I can appreciate what might be my world, if I get there?
Yes. So it's amazing. You're gonna love it, and like it's coming to everybody. I feel like Iron Man. I feel like Tony Stark. I talk to my computer in natural language, and it does anything that otherwise I would have had to do myself on a computer, and it's getting more and more capable every day. So, like, the example from before at the park, I take out my phone, and it's kind of like one big distributed system between my phone and my laptop and everything else. And also, I think this is probably just gonna go to an ear pod in my ear, and, I tap it and say whatever my request is, and then it actually happens. So, like, gosh, what's a good example? I might say something like, uh can you please take a look at everything that I've gotten done in the last 2 days? So look at my record of all of the, session history from all of my, Pi sessions. So look up where that is on my hard drive, and come up with a summary of it, just kind of like a high level, and don't include any sensitive information, filter all that out, and, draft an email. Actually, you can just send the email, to my friend Trigg. You should have his email address in my contacts. And just give him kind of like a high level summary of all the things that I got done across all the different projects, and have a rough time estimate for him of how much that would have taken before AI if I had to do all that manually. And let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so I'm putting my phone down. That took something like 30 seconds of my attention. Like I had the idea, and then I said it. That's just gonna happen. It's just gonna happen in the background. Like, I've worked with these systems enough to trust it, to know, like, it has access to send emails, and that took a long time, by the way. This like, I didn't jump into this. I'm very, very careful, like, I started doing this just saying, "You can only do drafts," and, "Okay, let's just do drafts for a while," but then after the 20th draft you do and it's perfect, "Okay, well, I guess you can just send the emails now for me." Um, Nothing happens automatically, though. That's still something that I'm trying to loosen the reins on. I do have some things that happen automatically, but, like, in very limited context, like, I know exactly what they can do. But, like, imagine all the like, you connect this thing to your email, and all of a sudden, oh, it can search my email, it can draft email, it can look up all my contacts, it can, it could do like two-factor authentication if it has to log into a website. You give it connection to your browser, okay, it can like add stuff to my Instacart for me. It can do my grocery shopping. It can keep the grocery lists. I give it access to my phone to be able to send text messages, and now between all these three things, I can like, oh, my wife just texted me the things that she wants to buy this week for groceries. Can you go to the browser and add those to my Instacart, and then also send an email to Sarah? It's like I don't know, saying a list of the things we bought. Like, and these things just compound and they just increase and like that. So that for the website that I did earlier, I gave it access to tools to do things like search for domain names and buy the domain names and do keyword research and Google search for competitors and access to servers so that I can deploy the servers and access to my toolkit to be able to like bootstrap a Rails app with all my best practices in mind. And so like, yeah, just anything that can be done on a computer, uh, LLMs will be able to do better, faster, and cheaper. And yeah, it just gets magnified and goes faster. And like, yeah, that's the vision of the future. It's just like everything's going to be amazing and happen so fast, and you're not going to need traditional computer interfaces anymore. We're going to watch movies of people like sitting at a desk with laptops and screens, and our kids' generation is going to look at that like, what are they doing? Why didn't they just ask their computer to do it? Why are they sitting there like moving the mouse around like a caveman? Yeah, that's where things are going.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've been I've had a very small team in my own business as just for context, I'm a magician, but there's a lot of administrative tasks that come along with the business side of show business, and I've had someone in the Philippines for the past few years helping run that side of my business, and I feel fortunate that that's given me an opportunity to get comfortable with delegation and with working um, with someone else to like build business systems that I don't actually have to execute. So in a way, it feels like you know, uh, I have a little bit of a head start on just for, an entrepreneur, business owner who maybe hasn't outsourced all their systems yet, just getting in that comfort of creating a system that then someone else can do. And it feels like that's how I need to think about AI now, that
Hmm.
AI can now be a act like a person that can execute systems that I have created or set up for my business or my personal life. Would you agree that's
Yeah,
the way I
yeah,
could
I
think
think
about
that's
it?
right. My co-founder is a ex McKinsey guy. His name is Ricky, and my co-founder for this AI consulting thing we're doing for small to medium sized businesses. He likes to frame it as, imagine you had 1,000,000 employees. What would you do with them? And so in a business context, that's fun because it kind of breaks people's minds of what's possible. Like, hold on, 1,000,000. Like, we really have to push people to be thinking about what's currently possible today. Of like, well, if you have 1,000,000 employees, like, okay, well, let's have a call center employee assigned to every single customer we have, and they're just obsessed with that one customer, and they have all the information about the customer, and like anytime they call, they always get the same agent back. Like, okay, that's a thing we could do with 1,000,000 employees. What else? Well, I don't know. Maybe let's send them all off on tasks to go like research every single possible client we could ever have in the entire world and score them based on how good of a fit they are for our company, and then have another team of employees draft a series of emails and write personal letters to each of them. Like, it gets crazy, the scale of this thing of what's possible. So yeah, the core skill that you're saying of like the core skill of delegation is incredibly useful. You just need to think about how you can turn this up to 11 of the scale of it, of like it's not just that you're outsourcing to a person. It's like, think about this in terms of you're outsourcing to a team of people who each have access to infinite resources of what they're potentially able to get done. So yeah, that's kind of the mental exercise to go through of
That's
like
really helpful and
thinking about this.
really that's really helpful and really daunting for me to think about, like, wow,
Yeah.
if I had 1,000,000 like, I don't need 1,000,000 employees. I struggle to keep 1 busy sometimes. So
Right.
just the fact that I have to expand the way I think about, like, my own power to do stuff. I think
Yes.
I'm thinking from a scarcity mindset that I need to sort of change. Um, just for, fun here, I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully this works. We can take a look. I got the email from
Ah, there we
Christian.
go.
"Hey, Trig, you know what we've been talking about? What's possible with AI coding agents? I figured I'd share a concrete snapshot. So here's what Christian got done in the last 48 hours. You integrated 15 data sources in 2 days for a trade
I did.
compliance platform, centralized analytics, government data integrations, web scraping platform. You built some landing pages for me. You're helping me
Oh,
out
and it
with some
and it
stuff.
it connected that it was for you. Yeah. It's the
Yeah,
same trick, yeah.
which is very cool. We've got here, hold on, let me get rid of that. We've got geocoder API, competitive research, infrastructure. That's roughly 100 AI agent sessions across 20 projects.
Yeah,
You're a madman. 20 projects in 48 hours. The agents run tasks in parallel via TMUX subagents. So a lot of this was happening simultaneously. Happy to
yeah.
walk through any of it. This this is insane. That
Isn't it?
and
And
you're
here's the
probably
thing.
working on all these while we're having this conversation.
Things are happening in the background, actually, yes. Um, Here's the thing, it's Saturday, so, like, Friday. Oh, and also, we didn't have my wife and I have 2 children, and we both work from home, and so we have a nanny that usually comes in so that we can both be working during the day. We didn't have her the last 48 hours. She's taking some time off, so this is like tame over the course of the last month. This is, like, unusually low output of what I've gotten done. Yeah, no, it's insane, and, like, it's accelerating, but now the acceleration is at a constant rate, so it's not. I have a handle on it now, but, like, it's still going crazy, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I'm I'll speak for myself, but also probably on behalf of a lot of business owners of companies of all sizes right now. I am a little overwhelmed by the
Mm,
rate of acceleration. Even if
yeah,
it is slowed down, I am feeling the impact of it. I'm generally feeling restless and uneasy because I feel like even if I just put a little bit of time into implementing a new tool, it is the brooms and anesthesia in Fantasia. It is just keeps it keeps feels like it keeps proliferating and it's hard to stay on top. Um, what's the best way for me to kind of counteract the overwhelm, cut out the noise? Because I think the degree that everything is changing so fast kind of results in doing nothing,
mm,
and that's probably, I would guess, the worst thing that people could be doing right now is nothing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do you suggest we healthily adapt with this change and take advantage of it in a way that's beneficial to us?
Yeah, that's the most important question right now. So, a few things. The first one is, you gotta go back and rethink your entire business from first principles. Like, what are you actually trying to get done, and how would you do that in an AI first world? Because there's gonna be AI first, whatever the industry is. There's gonna be someone there who either is starting today with all this AI stuff in mind, or they have someone internal, or they're talking to consultants like Ricky and I with our consultancy GXB, where like they're gonna go full throttle in AI. They're gonna be rethinking this. So like the game has changed. It's as if computers were it's a little more extreme than that actually. It's as if computers were invented and they've existed for 10 years. Like, and so if you were building a business 5 years ago and you were like, I don't think we really need this computer thing. Like, let's just use paper. Like, no, you're gonna get trash. Like everyone, this is how everyone communicates. This is how you're able to do stuff at the speed that you need to be able to, sending emails and doing orders and like financial analyses and everything else. So, yeah, kind of just take some time to think about, okay, what actually is the service that we're providing here? What are the inputs? What are the outputs? Um, and if we were doing this today with this framework of we have 1 million employees at our disposal, like how might you restructure the business? And there's a lot of stuff to think about there. Of like, I think businesses with a high headcount are actually at a disadvantage. Like the people who
Hmm.
I'd be betting on are really small, lean teams. Ricky and I talk about all the time that we feel like a 2-person team is actually in certain context, a 2-person team is like the best, like the highest velocity that you could have, and the best, with the right 2 people, the best balance of traits and everything else. But something that we think about all the time is like the humanitarian crisis that this is going to cause. Of like, uh, what how do you best deploy the people who are in roles that it doesn't make sense for humans to be in anymore? Anything involving call centers, anything involving like the initial contact of someone, anything involving like analysis, where stuff that can just be done on a computer. Like you got to get people to stop doing that. There's a lot of stuff that are really important for people to be doing that computers are never going to be good at. Stuff like, well, obviously like human to human connection. lots of things in sales. Like, AI can do all the legwork for you of researching all these different customers and figuring out what the best sales pitch is, and the best items to include, like the personal things for a particular client. But to actually make the sale, especially if we're talking about, like, multi-million dollar deals, no one's going to want to buy from an AI for that. They're going to want the personal connection. So, like, the joke that I have with Ricky is, like, one of the best jobs you could have right now is just being really good at playing golf, because it's how, making the connections is going to be, like, the most important thing. So, yeah, but we're walking through this with a few different clients, but it's not straightforward what to do. You kind of have to handle it by a case by case basis. Because, like, do you tell all your analysts to stop doing their analyses and like go play golf? Like, you there's a transition that needs to happen of being able to move the human intelligence over to what the AI is able to do. Yeah, so that's the first thing I would say. Rethink your entire business from first principles, with this framework in mind of that you have a million AI agents at your disposal. The
Like
second
just
thing I would say,
proverbial pen and paper. You said like inputs, outputs,
yeah,
the
yeah. What's the core
processes
value?
that
What's the core value that you're doing, like, within your business? What is the service, and how might you do that instantly, or how might you do that at a much bigger scale, or like what's possible now that you have all this workforce. The second thing I would say is it's going to make sense for a long time to spend a significant amount of time in the tools. And this, you can kind of shortcut this if you hire someone like Ricky in my company, gxp.vc. The joke that I heard online was, like, to keep up with this stuff, you have to be unemployed, because it's just stuff is happening so fast. There was a scraper that I was making for a client of ours. We needed to scrape. There's a certain business type that has a website, and we needed to scrape every single uh, business type in the country. So it's like all these smaller businesses, and all of them have a website, and I needed to figure out some way to have AI agents scrape every single website at some, once a month or once a week or something. And I was working on this for a couple days and got really far, and had something that was pretty reasonable, that, like, okay, we can do it, and I can do it for, like, uh, $1 to $4 per site, depending on how stuff's happening. And I could probably push that further down towards the dollar. And not 2 days later, Cloudflare announced this new thing that, like, if I am not devoting time in my day every day to, like, making sure that I'm up to date with all the newest tools, I wouldn't have caught this. But Cloudflare announced a new thing that's a scraping tool that can scrape the entire, like, it was purpose built basically for this application that I was doing. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is great." And so I rebuilt the entire thing, which sounds like a lot, but it was actually just like, talking to my phone, "Hey, can you rebuild this with Cloudflare scraping agents?" And it rebuilt it, and I got the price down to, an average of something like 16 cents a site. So,
huh.
like, less, about 10x smaller, and massively in parallel now. That, it was gonna be this massive thing where I was gonna have to spin up a bunch of servers. Nope, I just send it all to Cloudflare, and it just massively scans all the sites, almost all at once. I think I can run like 100 at a time or something. Um, and then comes back, and, I have the data instantly, and it's so much cheaper. And I was able to do that because it started off, I was spending like 80% of my time in the tooling, and it's gotten to a pretty stable place for me now of, like, I'm on the forefront of most of the places where I could be on the forefront of. But even then, like, I still spend about 20% of my time either refining my own internal tooling, or, like, uh, making sure that I'm staying up to date with other stuff going on. So yeah, that's the second thing I would say is, like, start off. Oh, it's I think it's a George Washington quote, but it might be apocryphal. He says, if you give me 5 hours to cut down a tree, I'm gonna spend the first 4 hours sharpening my axe. Like, that's where we're at right now. There's a lot of new stuff, and it pays dividends to realize what's out there, and to stay current with it, because, yeah, like, the game's changing week to week of what the best tools are to be using.
I'm just putting on my hat of a stressed out business owner. I have taken, maybe feel like I can dedicate 3 hours a week to, rejig my business to use some AI tools. The prospect that now I have to every week also keep up with whether the tools I implemented last week are still current feels daunting to me. And all
Yeah,
I
for
can
sure.
think is that is the move, unless I have the luxury of, a consultancy on retainer like JXB, like, is the move to ask AI to help with that? Like, weekly, research what tools have come out that might improve the business systems we've already implemented the night before or the week
Yeah,
before?
that's a great idea. Yeah, once you've plugged these systems in, that I built something like that for myself actually, because it does take a long time, just like scrolling through X, figuring out like what the newest updates to all this stuff are. So yeah, that's the sort of thing that yeah, you have 1 million employees. Let's throw 100 of them at this problem of like how do I stay up to date with stuff and give me summaries and oh man, you can make AI podcasts now. So like I have this, I haven't actually done this yet, but I could do it on this podcast probably. What I wanted to do is like do that scraping for all the news and then make a podcast just for me that's like personalized for me. I'm like, hey Christian, here's your like, expertly produced podcast giving you updates on all this stuff.
Meaning
So
like robots talking to each other
yeah, like
about
it sounds like Radiolab or something. It's two people talking to each other like, oh, so what's in the news today? Oh, well, we have this interesting story of Cloudflare just announced this new thing. It's like I know what's happening. I know that I wrote the thing that wrote the script for this, and that it's robot voices talking to each other. But I don't know. It's just I like information presented that way, so that's how I get it.
what is the
Um,
tool that you can if I wanted to make my own podcast on a subject area, how would I do that?
so there's a all of this stuff that I'm talking about is like stuff that I built myself because I'm
Hmm.
just like really finicky with it and I love playing with this stuff and so it's nothing you can use. But it's stuff that like if you were a client of ours, I could be like, oh yeah, of course I'll send you a daily briefing in a podcast. Um, but there's a consumer version of it I think called Notebook LM,
Yes,
and
I
then
believe
Google has one also
Note.lm
called
does it.
Google. Oh gosh, what was the Google one called? It's a Google Notebook something something.
Yep.
But it's yeah, you put your information in and you push a button to say, turn this into a podcast and then it goes. I can't use tools like that anymore just because like I know what's happening underneath, and there's a lot of really finicky stuff I want to do. Of like, well, I don't want to have to go to the website and then push a button. I just want it to happen, and I need it plugged into these proprietary things that I don't want Google to have access to. So yeah, it's like I've kind of built my own harness is the term people are using. I've built my own harness to kind of connect all these things together and that sort of thing. One thing I'll say though is like from a bigger picture, the future I see the future of software going in two different directions for consumers. So for any sort of consumer app. So think like, on your phone, on the App Store, there might be like a weight loss app or a workout app or something like that. I think all of the B2C apps are going to get replaced by AI agents for consumers. So like Siri on your phone or Anthropic, uh, or ChatGPT or XAI, that sort of thing. People are just going to say, instead of like going to the App Store and downloading an app, they're just going to say, "Hey Siri, uh, I'm trying to lose weight, and you already know everything about me, and you know how much I weigh, and you know the places I like to eat at, and everything else. So help me do that." And then it's going to say, "Oh, fantastic! I'd love to. Hey, for lunch, I've ordered it for you already. It's going to be this, and hey, I'll remind you when it's time to go for a walk. When you're going to this place, let's walk instead of getting an Uber or whatever. That's a good place to start. And just before you eat anything, take a picture of it on your regular camera, and then I'm already tracking your exercise because you already carry me. You carry me in your pocket all the time, so I got that taken care of. And anytime and then take like a picture of yourself in the mirror, and then we can track progress across time. What a better experience that is than, like, trying to piece together for yourself, "Oh, which app do I use? And, oh, this one's paid, and I gotta pay for this thing, and, oh, I gotta enter it and remember to, like, open the app to do this thing." So that's all the consumer apps. All the consumer apps are gonna be replaced by that. I think all the B2B apps are gonna be replaced by software engineers. We might have to come up with a new title for them because it's like people kinda overseeing these swarm of agents who are pulling in all of a business's needs into one monolithic, bespoke, custom software thing. So instead of being subscribed to your CRM and your app that collects leads for you and whatever proprietary data source you have to be subscribed to, one of the clients we're working with right now is in real estate, and there's this app called I think I can talk about that because it's fine. There's this app called CoStar, and it's huge. It's a publicly traded company, and what they do is collect a whole bunch of data for properties. So, like, and it's all public data, but it's just impossible to get to because it's all like state level stuff, and you got to figure out, how much is the property worth, and what are the loans on this property, and how big is it, and what's the address, and what's the rent, what do they charge for that, a whole bunch of stuff. And for real estate investment firms, this is table stakes. Like you have to have this, and they charge outrageous amounts for subscriptions to it. And in this project, like just like one of these million things that I'm working on, I've replicated CoStar. Because it's all free data that's just publicly available. So I just pulled it all in and I was like, oh, here you go. Now this is just one of the things that's in your app. And it's so much better that way because now this talks to everything else in your system. This talks to your CRM because I'm pulling the CRM in. This talks to your emailing system. They, they haven't done this yet, but I would love to make for them like a daily podcast that goes out to all their C-level team of like, hey, here's, we pulled in all the stuff from, we scraped a bunch of apartment websites yesterday, and here's some interesting movements in that, and like, check your one app for your business that was custom made for you, to get updates on that. So, uh, yeah, I that's where I see things going eventually, and like small businesses, I think will be able to get away with just using the apps that the LLMs make for them. So if you're a coffee shop, yeah, you can just ask your phone to go and buy some Facebook ads for you, or send out some emails, or start a promotion or something. I think that's going to be fine. But for the bigger businesses that need a human to be responsible and accountable for making this thing, and for connecting all these systems together, and like needing to make sure, needing human reassurance that this is doing what it should be doing, and that everything's secure, and all that. I think you're going to need like an engineer who can be serving multiple businesses. But you're going to need an engineer that's making this bespoke monolith for you.
And their day-to-day is refining prompts, looking at logs, addressing concerns from various other employees that maybe noticed something didn't work. Is that
Well,
right?
think about what Elon Musk does day to day, or like Tim Cook. Um, they literally are overseeing probably not a million, but close to a million employees. So what are they doing? They are at the top, just kind of thinking about high level strategy and taste, and their feelings, and intuition about the market and where things are going. Like they're at the top, kind of steering the ship of like, oh, hold on, from this thing I heard whispers of this, and I think that means this thing's going to move over this way. So like let's move in this direction. Oh yeah, this deal looks good on paper, but hold on, my hackles are up a little bit because this doesn't feel right. Like I can see
Mm.
what the AI would have recommended this, but no, that's actually not the direction I want to go. That's the most important place for humans to be spending their time. And then, we're still going to need a lot of humans in each organization that are making connections with people. You still got to make deals. You still got to have people from your company talking to other people at other companies. So I think that's what the future of work in companies is going to look like, which is kind of beautiful, right? Because it's like a return to humanity. It's so inhumane to be sitting at desks, tapping on computers and looking at screens. I love it just because I don't know, I have a really nice keyboard, and I don't know, but like it's so much better to be out with my kids on a hike, and that's what humans should be doing. That's the environment that we evolved in. So yeah, I think that answers the question.
I mean, I love the idea that the AI, the developments in AI are going to allow us to be more human, to be more attached, more attached to the physical, tangible world, and less attached to the digital. In theory, I can appreciate that, but I'd love to get into the darker side that some people see of this tech, both on the humanitarian and environmental side, right? I mean, you talked about how we are at the place where it is just a matter of time that droves of human white collar workers who have an identity around the fact that they get paid to think and make decisions are going to no longer necessarily be the best ones for that job. And you mentioned a little bit about, a graceful transition
Mm,
as the Tim Cooks and the Elon Musks and the leaders of the world, maybe ones with, just people that have a heart for their team and
mhm,
love their community of people.
yeah,
And I recognize that you don't necessarily have the answer, but if you were in that position of, say you are CEO of a team that has 1,000 people and 600 of them are no longer their role can be replaced by AI.
yeah.
How would you, as captain of the ship, manage that transition gracefully and with compassion and in a way that, serves serves the company, and the brand, I guess, because
Mhm.
there is a very real monetary concern of like the public's, your customers' perception of how you are managing your internal team. There could probably be a monetary value assigned to like the level of compassion that a leader might have as they work through this transition. So I realize it's a tough question, but how would you manage that in the most graceful way possible?
Yeah, this is a really important question. This is something I'm thinking about all the time. I think there's I think there's obviously wrong things to do. which is like what Jack Dorsey did recently, which is like fire half of his team and then brag about it on online. Like, don't do that.
Remind me,
Um,
Jack Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey was the founder of Twitter and then
Right.
is
Okay.
doing something else. And I don't know what he fired people from actually. There's some company
Okay.
he's running now that
Got
he
it.
fired half the people and bragged about it and said like, we're going to be 4 times as productive as we were before, even with half the headcount, which is true. Um, and this is a position that I think every organization is going to be in eminently, which is like the realization that you have a lot of payroll that you could cut and it wouldn't matter from a bottom line perspective. And I think part of the right answer of how to successfully navigate that is like, please do not fire everyone right away. Like, we don't know, first of all, at an organizational level, this stuff's moving really fast. We don't know what this is going to look like in a few months. We don't know where the alpha is going to come from. Uh, be conservative in that. Like, accept that your margins just exploded and that you have wildly higher productivity. And let's just sit for just a minute and just kind of think about like, okay, well, we have these resources of these people who are on payroll who know each other and they're in this organization and we all believe in the same mission. We don't yet know what human labor is going to be best allocated towards, but this is still a resource that we have. Oh, I have kind of a funny example of this. There's this game called Cookie Clicker where you start off as just a big cookie on the screen and you click the cookie and it says, oh, you made a cookie, and you click it 10 times and oh, you made 10 cookies. And then you get 20 cookies and it's like, oh, would you like to purchase a grandma? And you're like, purchase a grandma? What am I doing? And you buy the grandma for 20 cookies. And then all of a sudden you have a grandma and the grandma's making 1 cookie per second. And you're like, oh, I see where this is going. And you go and make another 20 cookies, this time assisted by your grandma. So you don't have to cook it. You don't have to click it that many. You click it 15 times and your grandma made 5 cookies. And now you have 2 grandmas. But then it gets to a point where it's like, oh, we can make cookie factories. And each cookie factory, it has the equivalent output of 100 grandmas, something like that. I don't remember the numbers. And then you're like, "Ah, well, now that I have these cookie factories, like that's where all my money goes. Let's fire all the grandmas." But hold on, don't fire the grandmas because it turns out in the course of this game, there's upgrades you give the grandmas of like, "Oh, hold on, this upgrade makes each grandma 5 times more effective." And that doesn't, we're not quite at the 100x of the factory, but the grandmas aren't as expensive as the factories, and also it's much nicer to look at some grandmas on your screen than the factories. So you go and do that, and it turns out in the course of the game, like there's an optimal balance between the grandmas and the factories. It doesn't always make sense to invest money in the new factory. Sometimes it makes money to invest in the grandma. So like, think really hard. I would implore the leadership team of any company, think really hard about like, first of all, the humanitarian implications of if everyone did this, if everyone just did the Jack Dorsey move and fired half their employees, there would be an economic crisis. Like, please don't do that. Yeah, it's going to be like a lot of highly paid individuals and stuff. Also, as an aside, like from a personal level, and this is something that I've grappled with of like, I inevitably see like all this work that I'm doing, I don't know how long it's going to take, 5 years, maybe a couple months from now. This stuff's moving really fast. I'm not going to be the best way to make software in this way. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I think I'm looking at this from the Ray Kurzweil perspective of probably the early 2030s. We're going to hit this singularity where like humans just don't need to do any work anymore. The computers are setting the direction and doing all this higher level analytical stuff. And that used to be an idea that like really shook me to my core of like, well, what does that mean if I don't need to do the work? Like, who am I as a person? And that's not that like that's an element of humanity. I think it's important for us to be doing work, but like that's not who you are. You are not the work that you do. It's enjoyable to do that, and it's a way that you can express love and give a gift to someone else. But like that's not what humanity is. People worked for thousands of years, doing this stuff that just like hanging out with people and yeah, work is not that's not your value. Your value as a human is distinct from your economic output, or what you're able to get done in the economy. So okay, peeling that back. Similar to Cookie Clicker, like don't make these drastic moves of firing people to move it in this brave new world. Like let's take this one step at a time. And then also like we don't know what the future is going to look like. There's gonna be humans are are gonna be around. I love humans. That's kind of the whole point of this thing is improving human lives. Let's not lose sight of that. And yeah, the same sort of advice from before of like how do you stay up to date with AI is just like kind of think about it from first principles of like from a humanitarian perspective. What's the purpose of your business? I believe every business fundamentally the goal of it is to improve the experience of human lives, and so it's sort of hypocritical if you're doing that and also like ruining the people's lives who had devoted their time and attention and care to furthering your cause. So like yeah, I think I would in this rethinking when you're rethinking your entire business from first principles, like every business, I believe, needs to have at the core of one of those first principles that the entire reason the business exists is to improve lives. And so, first and foremost, like that's what needs to happen. And it probably does not make sense as a move to further that mission to just fire all the people who are working for you.
So from a practical standpoint, if
Yeah.
these AI tools are being adopted in the right way and we overhaul the business model, the question becomes, what do those what do the majority of our employees do? And I mean, it's a it's a question that I'm grappling with too as someone. I mean, I have an assistant that helps me, and my approach so far has just been to try as best I can to bring my team along for the ride, to say,
Mhm.
like, I don't know what's happening here, but
Yeah.
I'd love for you, like, I don't have the hours in a day to keep on top of all this.
Yeah.
Let's just ride this wave together and see where it goes, and know that I'm gonna do my best to take care of you along the way. Um, do you think that is the best use of, potential employees that maybe whose roles have drastically shifted and whose tasks have been drastically outsourced, that their new job is just to learn? Like, is that the move? That they spend
That's
more time getting up to date?
Yeah, that's a solution, yeah, and again, I think this needs to be handled by a case by case on a case by case basis, like, I'm really big into personality tests and personality types, and, for people like you and I, we're very high in openness, so, like, we love learning new stuff, just all day, I just if I could just be a student for the rest of my life, like, absolutely, that sounds great. There's a lot of people lower in openness who like, "That sounds awful," and so if you said, "Hey, everybody, like, we have great news, you don't need to do your job anymore," that was very straightforward and, you felt like you had a good handle on. You don't need to do that anymore. Instead, you can just learn a bunch of new stuff. There's a lot of people who would look at something like that and say, like, "That sounds awful." Absolutely not. And so it depends. That's a solution of something you could be doing. People are talking also about like upskill training. I'm skeptical of upskill training just because things are happening so quickly.
What
Like
does that mean?
I
What is upskill
like
training?
well, I say when you just asked me what it means. So it's s- I think the term comes from in times when these sorts of technological advancements weren't happening so quickly. So say, in the computer revolution, if you had a bunch of secretaries who used to type all your memos for you, and now, you can just dictate to your computer. So we don't need secretaries doing that anymore. You can retrain those people to be doing other skills within the business that's still useful. So, secretaries still exist today, but it's much more like fielding calls
Mhm.
setting up appointments and things that up until a couple months ago, like, really needed a human to do. And so people are talking about that as a potential thing to do of like, well, maybe we have consulting teams that come in and they figure out who the displaced employees are in your organization, and we figure out like training for them to be able to do new things. That's an option, and like I'm totally up for being proven wrong, but like I just don't see that happening because of how quickly things are moving. That like any sort of economically productive thing that we could be moving them into that looks like it's gonna be economically productive today, perhaps with the exception of sales.
Mm.
Um, it feels like as soon as we finish the training, actually, sorry, we just trained you for, that job also just got replaced. Um, so I think we need to be thinking bigger picture of like philosophically, like what do people need and what is the human layer of these businesses of um uh, what are places in this business where we really require human intuition and taste and integrity, and how might we have people in those sorts of positions, and if we don't have the people to that can operate at that level yet. Okay, well, what's the environment where we can start training people to do that? Maybe we have more of like a apprenticeship model where, let's assign a few people to just kind of follow around every person on the C-suite and just kind of watch what they're doing, so that they can pick up the intuition for how these things are happening. And yeah, that sounds like it could be kind of fun. Like you have your own little team. It's like walking around, like that'd be cool. Um, yeah, but, kind of a bigger picture, like, I don't yet have a good answer for this. I have a feeling of I it seems obvious what the wrong answers are, and I feel like I have a shape of what might happen that would lead to a positive outcome, but, this is probably the thing that I feel currently most unsettled by is, like, I would love to have a better answer for a straightforward, like, "Oh, it's just this five-step program of, oh, you've recently, displaced a quarter of your workforce, so, just do this easy five-step thing," and, I think I'll get there. I'm feeling my way around the answer, so
Yeah, I
if
mean,
we have this
it'll be the
conversation in a month,
subject
I
of
think.
it'll be the subject of thousands of more podcasts, I'm sure, and it's certain I certainly have
Oh,
more questions. We could talk about this for hours more, but just to in the interest of staying at at a surface level and touching on a few different topics, just quickly, I don't wanna spend too much time on it, but I do think it deserves asking.
yes.
How do you currently and we've talked about this a little bit in the past. I consider myself someone that, like, cares about the planet and wants there to be birds and animals and
Yeah, yeah.
water for my children's children,
Oh, yes.
um, all of those things. I love, the natural world and all that it gives us and all I feel healthier when I'm in it, and I certainly am feeling at times hypocritical and, you know, uh reflective about, where how do I reconcile my love of productivity and efficiency and the desire to lean into big things that scare me with this sense of, the environmentalist in me reading a lot of scary headlines about what we're doing to the planet. And I would like to think that the only way forward, at this point, the genie's out of the bottle. It's an overused
Mm,
analogy, but it does feel that way. That it doesn't feel like to ignore this technology is the move.
mm.
So how do we, as people that want to, if we want to protect the planet and protect, humans and raise future ones in an environment in which they have access to the natural world in the same way that we do,
Uh-huh.
what's the move here? Is AI going to get more efficient? Is AI going to help us be more environmental? Or are we burning our planet to the ground in the name of protecting the human race's advancement? And we just have to come to accept that. What's your perspective on this?
Yeah. Oh, what a great I wish we had an hour just to talk about this. So my 2-year-old recently discovered Pocahontas, and, there's just such a sense in that movie of, like, the brilliant magnificence of nature and how important that is, and, oh, then the evil English sailors come in and, they're gonna destroy everything. Same sort of thing with Avatar. We haven't gotten into Avatar yet, but, um, like, nothing's changed from any technological revolution. Like, the way that you think about the Industrial Revolution is the same sort of thing, and yeah, the genie's out of the bottle. Like once you have a technology, you can't undiscover it. Like it's out there, it's done. So the only way forward is forward. Like, and my gosh, would you rather live in a pre-industrial society? I wouldn't. Like, we have air conditioning and hot showers. Like, I can hit a button on my phone and food shows up right there, 2 feet away from me, and it's whatever I want. And same thing with any physical thing I could want. I hit a button on my phone 2 days later. It's right there, and that's magical. And the so there are some reasonable environmental concerns with all this stuff. Although the main one that I've heard about is that it's water is being destroyed,
Data
and
centers and water cooling. Yeah.
yeah, and like calm down. The water's not just disappearing; it's moving between different aquifers, and yes, it is a thing to keep in mind. But like, um, data centers also, yeah, they use a lot of power, but like we're going to need a lot of power for this, and it's going to be great. And there's a lot of ways to get power. I love Elon's plan of just putting a bunch of solar panels in space. I think that's a way to do it that like no one would be upset by. But the way that I'm looking at this is sort of the way that I see every technological revolution of like, yeah, we can opine after the good old days of like, remember back when pre-agriculture when we could just hang out outside with our friends all the time and go camping and hunting and we lived in our small tribes. Well, okay, we can't go back to that. Like, yes, there were great parts of that. There were also some really terrible parts that we didn't have any choices about. Like infant mortality was through the roof. And also if you get sick, like you're dead now. We have no way to help you. And so how about we figure out a way to keep the good parts of that and bring them forward into the future of like, we have had the capacity as a society to just demolish the entire country and remove all natural beauty, and that would have been the highest economic output. Like, oh, redwood forest, it looks like a bunch of great source of resources to build some houses to sell people. And we didn't do that. We have kept some taste and some judgment and morals and ethics within this to be able to bring that forward. Also doing things like, cleaning our air. You can't just pollute everything into the air, even though it's cheaper to do that. Um, and so like the with any sort of problem we face, and there's gonna be some weird problems that we've never seen before with this, but it's not a great option to go backward because we can't. Not the Bolshevik Revolution, the Luddites. The Luddites went through this with some of the industrialization. I think it was around the power loom, this machine that can like automatic or the automatic loom, I think it was called, could automatically weave fabric instead of people were doing it by hand. And the Luddites were this group of people in somewhere in Europe who got really upset by that because they all lost their jobs. They all got displaced, and they were like, no more power looms. So they burnt the factories down. And, like, look where that got them. Do we not use power looms anymore? No, you can't stop it. Once the technology's out there, like, it's gonna exist. But let's talk about the problems that we can address, which is like, "Hey, you don't have a job anymore. That's a problem we can fix. Let's figure out what to do about that." I yeah, that's what I would say. We can't go backwards. There are some concerns, but, like, we need to solve them by embracing the technology further is my, like, techno-optimist perspective.
And I guess yeah, and I guess in that vein, apart from, what do I do with this XYZ group of employees? Hey, we are arguably draining this aquifer, this river by the rate we need to change the way this technology is run. We need to find different energy sources and use AI, enable AI to actually help us work through these problems and make the data centers more efficient as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds right. And AI is just we're gonna get to a point where this is smarter than all humans put together. Any sort of problem that gets created by this will just be trivially easy to solve for this. AI is gonna be like, "Oh, what's the problem? You're running out of water in this aquifer? Okay, let me invent this thing to desalinate ocean water. Now you have an unlimited supply of water everywhere you could possibly want water." I think things are gonna look like that.
Cool. If I just to sort of ask a closing question or two, if I decide to be a Luddite about this whole AI thing, this
Yeah.
pesky AI thing that everyone's talking about, if I just
Yeah, yeah.
choose to close my doors and live in a non-AI world as much as possible,
Yeah.
don't make AI generated images, don't watch AI generated content, just don't
Yes.
generally support this tech and,
Yeah.
buy locally, support local artists, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, yeah.
What what am I gonna stand to lose? Like, what is at risk if I choose that path, if
Oh,
anything?
I love that you asked this question. Nothing. You're fine. There are still uncontacted tribes of humans living in the world that don't know about fax machines, that don't know about paper, uh, and they're living their lives. Like, and it's I would argue there's some humanitarian concerns there of like, okay, well, if they get sick and we have the power to save them of this disease, like, isn't that kind of our obligation to help them? Um, and this is something I talk about with Ricky all the time, though, of like, if we just lived in the woods and didn't even use cell phones just for like 5 to 10 years. I don't know quite how long it's gonna take. And then we come out, things are gonna be amazing, and everything's gonna be free, and it's just limitless abundance everywhere, and and we can adopt some of that if we want to, or if we wanna, live our little, Stardew Valley lives in the forest, we can keep doing that too. Um, that's yeah, no, you're fine. You don't need to do any of this. This is not like this is not li things are gonna change if you want to play this game. It's the most fun it's ever been. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do. Um, but fundamentally, like, there's this great quote by it's a Stoic philosopher. Not a Stoic. He was an ascetic. So Yeah.
Mm.
this philosophy back in ancient Rome, where the whole philosophy was based on like embracing hardship and kind of finding virtue through hardship and really centered around like not needing stuff. And there's this story where his only possessions are like this potato sack that he wears for his clothes and a cup that he uses to like scoop out water from the river and drink. And he said one of the happiest days of his life was when he realized that he didn't need the cup because he saw a monkey just cup in his hand in the river and drinking the water. He's like, oh, this is great. He threw his cup away. And the emperor one day came to see him. And the emperor kind of stood in front of him and cast a shadow on him and said, I'm the emperor. Surely you would like something from me. And he said, yes, please get out of my way. You're blocking the sun. Like, that's kind of, at a base level, that's kind of my philosophy on all this is like, this is really cool. But, are you really living a better life because you have a computer? Are day to day, the most of the things that I think go into human happiness and contentment and fulfillment are all internal games that you can't get from any sort of external change. Even if you're living in a crazy Star Trek universe where every whim you could possibly have is pre-thought out for you and delivered before you can even think about it. Even in that world, people will find a way to be miserable. And that's an internal game. This has nothing to do with anything happening externally. And for that, like, it's a whole separate conversation of like philosophy and religion and spirituality of like how you find that deep inner peace. And none of that's going to change. In the same way of, my gosh, if we were talking to people 1,000 years ago and we described what life looks like today, of I can push a button and any food I want, any food I could possibly imagine from all over the world just shows up right there on my door. And also I can step in this room that's 10 feet away from me and have a hot shower on demand. People would be losing their minds. They'd be like, so is everyone just ecstatic all the time? Actually, no, they're all depressed. It's like, and it's going to be the same thing with this. We're going to have robots doing all our dishes and all our laundry, and the inner game, your inner world will not change. That's a totally separate set of. It's not quite skills, but it's a separate domain. Like, this is all to do with the external world. You're going to be fine. Nothing. If you're already fine now, you're going to continue to be fine. If you're not doing well, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen in this revolution that's going to like change the way that you feel inside. That's a whole separate conversation.
Said earlier that, you know, isn't the whole point of this AI stuff anyways to improve lives? And I feel like, a distinction might need to be made between the act of improving lives, aka making them more efficient, making them more productive, making them safer, doesn't necessarily mean making people more happy
Yes.
and fulfilled and feeling like they're living purposeful lives. That is unfortunately not yet outsourceable to
Yeah.
a computer without a soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And won't be.
uh,
For
yeah.
philosophically, I don't believe it can be.
Okay, so there's nothing to lose. What is there to gain?
Everything. It's so cool. So, there's movies that I keep thinking back to of like Lucy with Scarlett Johansson, where she I forgot the plot of the movie, but she like takes a drug or something, and all of a sudden every day her brain is like doubling in capacity, or like Limitless, where he discovers this drug that he takes, and all of a sudden he cleans his room and then runs for mayor by the end of the movie. Um, That's what I've felt like for the last month, is just every day I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I can connect it to this thing, and then I could do this, and then I could do that. Oh my gosh." I'm able to do 10 times more stuff than I was able to do the week before. Um, and it's euphoric, like, especially for me. I've been doing this for the last 20 years, and so, every piece of what it's doing, like, I used to do by hand. I used to write out these lines of code, and I used to run these commands to do these things, and I used to go to all of 2 months ago, I used to, like, go to the website to go click on the button to buy the domain, and I just tell it what I want to do, and it just does it, and it just happens, and, like, oh my goodness, for people who like building stuff, it's just it's our time, people, like, idea guys. For the first time in my life, my ability to execute is on par with my ability to come up with new ideas for stuff. I have an idea for like, oh, I want to send Trigg an email with my update for the week. And then I say the sentence out loud, and then it happens. And I don't have to think about it. And like, that's incredible. Like, how cool is that? Yeah, so that's what you have to gain of like, if that idea excites you, of like, uh, if the idea of having 1,000,000 employees excites you, that like anything you can properly define as a thing that you want done, as a way that you want the external world changed, the effort to move from a thought to the implementation will asymptotically approach nothing. Like, that's astounding. I'm gonna be able to build a house with robots. I'm just gonna like think up a house and the ideas for all the stuff I want in the house, and then a house will be there. And, like, I can't do that quite yet, but we're getting there. Like, give it a year or 2. And I'm already, particularly within this last month, it has been crazy. I'm there with almost everything that I do on a computer. I think the thought of what I want to happen, and then then it happens. And, like, man, it's difficult to like, either you get it or you don't. Like, either that's exciting or it's not. And if it's exciting, oh my gosh, it's so exciting. That's what people stand to gain with, adopting more of these technologies.
As a magician, the word abracadabra is often, you know, a magic word that magicians are famous for using. And
Yeah, yeah.
I was trying to do the research while we were having the conversation, but because I wanted to get my attribution right. But to my knowledge, the word abracadabra comes from a linguistic root that means something to the effect of I speak and thereby I create. That,
Yeah, yeah.
I speak something into existence. And it feels like this, the AI revolution is enabling that just for
Yes.
ideas to turn into things. And not all ideas are good. And I've read some articles recently talking about how AI doesn't necessarily make, good ideas better. It just amplifies whatever you're doing to a larger
Yeah, yeah.
scale.
Yeah, yeah.
And from what I can tell, the inner work that you talked about of looking for purpose and fulfillment and having focusing on our thoughts and manifesting thoughts that are wholesome and good for humanity is even more important if the distance between that thought and it manifesting into a real world thing is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's gonna be some people who do, really bad things with this. Yeah, it's a magnifier, similar to money. You can
Hmm.
do good things with money, you can do bad things. Yeah, same sort of thing. And I love that you brought in, abracadabra, like, this idea of the power of speech, the power of naming things is a very old idea, and, man, it's never been more true of, like, your ability to define concepts. I think at its core, that's what speech is. It's drawing boundaries around a world that intrinsically doesn't have boundaries. It's attaching abstract concepts to things, in the external world. Like, your ability to do that and then manifest your new arrangement of how you want those things structured. We it feels like magic. It feels like we talked about our shared love of magic, that, like, that's how we originally connected. I feel like a magician. I feel like I'm speaking things into existence with magic spells, and, like, I love it. I was really into Harry Potter as a kid, and kind of I cried. Well, I didn't actually cry. I almost cried when I was 11, and on my 11th birthday, I didn't get the Hogwarts letter because I was like, I was like, I knew it's not real, but I was kind of holding on to a shred of hope that, like, it might be real. I'm there now. Like, I feel like a wizard. I can speak things into existence, and they happen in the real world, and, it's amazing. Uh, yeah, so yeah, there's a lot that goes into that, my gosh, but yeah, the fundamental concept of, like, being able to speak things into existence. Well, okay, that's an incredible power. So yeah, use it wisely. Don't do bad magic with your power to speak things into existence. Like, let's remember that we're all on this planet together, and humanity is sacred and important, and your own humanity is kind of the only thing that you truly know exists. And so, yeah, treasure that, and yeah, make more good stuff.
Do you have time for two more questions?
Of course I do.
All right. One question is, if I, Trig,
Yes.
desire to have the same level of AI enabled consciousness, just allowing me, if I want to also think things into an existence to
Yes.
the degree that you are,
Yes.
given the fact that I'm not a coder developer, I haven't been living in this world for 20 years. I don't have as strong a deep understanding of the behind the scenes of the ones and zeros as you do. When do I, as a tech savvy consumer, get to have a similar experience that you're getting? Are there things that I can do now, or is it a matter of time for someone to package this up for someone like myself?
The tools are only gonna get more accessible and easier for normal people to have. So but also, like, why wait? Like, just start playing with it now. Well, we'll get to a point, if the current level of tooling is a little too technically complex, yeah, eventually it's just gonna be you talk to your phone, and Siri is actually gonna be good, and normal people will just be able to talk to Siri, and it'll be able to do all these things that I've kinda set up for myself. I think I'm just, months to years ahead of the curve on that. So if you wait a year, yeah, you'll probably be able to do this. Um, if
So then,
you
just from a tangible standpoint, in this moment, I am
yeah,
using Claude Code and Claude Cowork as much as I can to, if I have a thought of here's what I need to do and I want to make it happen, I try to go to somewhere like that. Grok,
yeah.
ChatGPT, Claude Cowork, Manus, another
Yep.
AI agent. I am planning to download OpenClaw
Mhm.
and begin using that, hopefully safely so that it doesn't also do things that I don't want it to do. Am I
Yes.
in the right place? Like, am I doing the right things as
Yes.
a consumer with my level of knowledge?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, it's currently March of 2026, and that's the state of the art. The two that I recommend in particular right now are Claude Cowork and OpenClaw. Um, and next month it's going to be different. Next month the tooling is going to be better. It's going to be easier, and I don't know what the thing's going to be, but it's going to be something else. So yeah, like you've done the work of the discovery of, like, finding the things to play with, and you're investing some time in playing with them. Yeah, that's the best thing that you could be doing. And then so from the place that you're at now, I think there's a lot that I could talk about, but, one of the core skills that I think has been most useful for me in refining my own system is really critically paying attention to where am I spending my attention, and does it actually need to be spent there? Where am I actually adding value to the system? So like a small example of that is like, for a while, this whole system for me was based on typing stuff into a box because I can type really fast and I have this really nice keyboard I really like, and that's the easiest interface to do. And for forever, that's just been one of the fastest ways that I can get information to a computer. And then I had this narrative of like, oh, I want to make sure that I'm like being precise and that I'm not. Sometimes I say words and it doesn't go through. Like when I said Trigg, you didn't see. I had to write one more message to say like, oh, my friend Trigg, because it didn't hear your name properly. So it was like, who is this person I'm supposed to send this email to? Um, and so yeah, I was kind of thinking that I had to spend my attention on typing. And then I had the realization, like, hold on, I think speech to text models have actually gotten really, really good. Let me look into that a little bit. And they have. They've gotten so good that in most cases, they're better than typing. I can speak at something like when I'm just like mumbling to my phone. I can speak at something like 300, 350 words per minute. I cannot type that fast. And also, I pause when I type to think. But when I'm speaking, I can just kind of keep rambling and it figures out what I'm doing. So that's like one small optimization that I made of like, oh, hold on. I'm the bandwidth between me and the computer isn't as fast as it could be because I'm typing instead of speaking. Let me invest a little bit of energy into pushing more of that work onto the agent, onto this whole system, so that I speak words and then it transcribes it and then it runs it from there. And all of a sudden now there's a little speed bump of like, oh, not speed bump, but a little speed boost of, oh, that's now a little bit more efficient. Now the agent's doing a little bit more work for me. And I've probably done something like that, I don't know, 1,000 times in the last month, and all these little improvements, they start compounding, and then it gets to a really weird magical place. So again, like, I'm kind of on the bleeding cutting edge of this where I'm trying to do all this stuff for myself. There's gonna be a time where you can just download an app or your phone just already does it, and you're able to kind of inherit all this work that me and other people in the same sort of position are doing. And if you're chomping at the bit like me, of like, oh my gosh, there's a new toy we can play with it. Like, there's a lot of alpha here of like an advantage that no one else sees right now. I think that's the core scale is just like pay attention to what are you actually doing? What are you actually spending attention on? What are these little micro movements of? I can't tell you the number of improvements I made, just like switching between different threads that I have it working on of like different keyboard shortcuts and different voice commands and stuff to be able to do that. Um, yeah, the more that you can improve those systems and refine that process, I think that's like the path to figuring out how to bootstrap a more advanced system. And if you don't do anything and just wait a little bit longer, like install it, and it's gonna give you all that out of the box. But to me, it's fun to be on the bleeding edge.
To actually close now, what's a question that I haven't asked you that you'd like to answer?
Oh man, we talked about a lot of fun stuff. A question that you haven't asked me that I'd like to answer. Um, oh, there's a there's a big debate right now in the space about the future of software. And this is an issue that's like near and dear to my heart because I'm part of this huge community of I've told you about it, of like micropreneurs. There's a conference in particular called MicroConf. where it's a bunch of nerdy software guys who like have built their own business in software, and it's a tool like a tool that I made a little over 10 years ago, File Inbox. So this is like a single purpose tool that for people who want to send and receive files, you visit fileinbox.com. You make an account. File Inbox will make you an upload page. You can send that to other people, and they drag and drop files into it to send them to people. And so I have hundreds of friends who are in a similar. They have businesses that are like of a similar shape. It's called software as a service. You pay me a subscription fee, and I provide you the service of being able to upload files. The huge debate is like, is this model dying? And I think absolutely, this model does not make sense anymore. I think it's the end of software as a service. And I think it's moving to more of a service. Instead of I build an app and you can click around in it and set this thing up for yourself to get this job done, it's going to be you just ask your phone to do the thing for you that you want done, and it does it. Or you go to a person, and the person has this whole army of agents behind it who are doing the service for you. So like, people who sign printers are a demographic of people who use File Inbox right now. Instead of File Inbox being the way that they get files, and then the business owner has to go and sign up for File Inbox and do everything else, it would be a much better service for the sign printer if somebody came to him and said, hey, I'd like to run your back office for you, and you just focus on the part that you love, which is you love tinkering with these printers and staying up to date and on the latest ink and whatever else. And I'm just going to send you jobs and you print them, and we figure out a model for that makes sense for both of us economically. That's where I see things going. So, because like it's just not going to make sense anymore. For people to off the shelf software, like paying for it with a subscription like that used to make sense when software was hard to make, and software is no longer hard to make. And so like that whole model is going to change. And so I'm having conversations with people one-on-one where I'm just imploring them like, hey, pivot your business now to like, instead of being a service that people subscribe to and they have to figure it out for themselves, like own more of the process and pick a smaller demographic of people to serve, but like really just solve the whole problem for them. I think that's where things are moving. And that's a
Be
very
their
controversial
captain.
thing in my space. Yeah. Act as if you're an agency who's like doing the whole job for them, but your agency is made up of AI agents.
Okay. Anything else?
If you would like consulting from me, a free consulting call. Oh, and if you'd like to talk to my AI secretary, I made a little AI secretary. You can book calls with her, and you can ask her questions, and she'll answer them. You can go to gxb.vc, or I don't have the number memorized. Hold on. Or you can call or text. Oh my goodness, gxb.vc. You can call or text. Where's the number? Here's the number. You can call or text 817-518-0775. And you can talk to, I think I named her Ava. You can talk to her, and you can book a call with me through Ava, or you can ask her questions about stuff. And it might break, but it'll only get better.
Do you want to do that again so you're not searching for the number?
No, it's
take?
fine.
Okay.
No, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And no further questions. I mean, there will be
Great.
more questions, but for now, I am very happy with what we got.
So am I. Thank you. This is a delightful conversation.
Good. All right.